Hi, thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to share with you my tip for shrink wrapping items for gift giving or for selling. Now, if you haven't done so already, hit the like and the subscribe button. I'm going to tell you how to do this, and I'm going to really use recycled shrink wrap. All right. So this is a item that I just packaged, and it's some soaps and other items that I have. I got different ones in cases, and I want to package them up and make them look like a nice item to either give as a gift or to have someone purchase it. This is how you would find it in a store, all nicely shrink wrapped together. If that's all I have. I'm not adding any extra cardboard to it or any other packaging. I just want to shrink wrap it and let that be that. If you are gift giving, this would be just perfect. Now you can just wrap it or put it in a gift giving bag or something like that. If you're selling it now, once you shrink wrap it, you can put your own personal label on it and price it. So how do we get here, and what tools will you need? Remove this to the side. Hopefully we will avoid this. This happens if you are too close with the heat gun, and we're always trying to avoid that. So what you will need some items, of course, that you're going to package. You'll need some scissors. You need some shrink wrap, either on a full roll, or I'll show you how I do this, recycled. And you'll need, this is if you don't have professional shrink wrapping equipment, all right? You'll need a heat gun, or you will need a very, very hot blow dryer. This is my heat gun. These you can pick up from fairly cheap from your local hardware store. Or like I said, you can use a blow dryer that gets extremely hot. And this is a Seal-A-Meal. Yeah, it's a Seal-A-Meal. It's old. I've used it for some years. I broke the hinges, and so my daughter put some duct tape on it, and it still works, which keeps me from having to pull out the big shrink wrap table. So, and that works really, really well. So these, I pulled off some other objects that I did. These came off of some picture frames that were shrink wrapped, and I just removed the shrink wrap, and I can do a video to show you how I remove the shrink wrap. But this is a nice size, and so we're going to use this, recycle this, instead of using a roll that you have to cut down. Now, these are the objects. You want to arrange these objects in a way that will be beneficial for you. So I've already did this before, so I'm just going to slide these in here. You want to arrange your objects so that it looks good and presentable. But since I've done this already, I know what I did. And with this one, usually you don't have to maneuver, but I had to maneuver these in order to get these in here just right. So I may or may not keep that part in here. And then this is where the maneuvering comes in. So I want these to stand up here on this end, and there's not a lot of shrink wrap left, but it's doable. So I just worked it in. This is one of those things where you have to kind of maneuver around. I've done this quite a bit, so I really know what it takes sometimes to maneuver pieces in the shrink wrap itself. You want to make sure everything is how you want it, so it looks presentable and it's not upside down or anything of that nature. So these I'm just kind of, all right. So now I just discovered I have an opening here, but I also have an opening here on this side. That's not gonna work. Normally I'll close it on two sides and then close the other two sides. And now I need to shrink wrap this side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this top and bottom piece. I want them as close to being perfectly aligned with each other. Now I'm going to lay this piece in the sealer mill so that it seals just this edge and not into the place, because I'm going to need this room here. So I'm going to place these two ends together and hold them. I'm going to lift. I'm going to lift this. There's a metal piece that runs along. So if you have a sealer mill, you know there's a metal piece that runs along here. With your professional sealers, I have a really small one and I have a large one. So the small one is too small for this and the large one is heavy. But they also have this little metal strip that's up under what appears to be, it feels like a cloth or some type of cloth or paper ribbon that covers it. And that's the part that's going to do the sealing. So I'm going to lay this just right there. I'm hoping you can see that. Just over this metal piece. It has to be over the metal piece. And again, I want the front, the top, and the bottom piece lined up. I'm going to press it down on there and hold it with my hands while I put this lid piece down. Hold it. The light has to come on. Well, you know what? The light would come on if I had it plugged up. So let's plug this up. There, the light's on, and you have to press it here where the strip is, so it will make a really nice seal. I don't want to keep fighting with it, so I just press it down here, hold it a little longer than normal. Now, it depends on the shrink wrap. Some shrink wrap is thicker than others. So if the shrink wrap is not that thick, it will melt together really fast. And of course, you can use saran wrap or other plastics. It doesn't have to be shrink wrap plastic. The shrink wrap plastic just contours and forms a nice glove around the shape of the object. But you can also use just saran wrap or some other stiff plastic. I've used, you know, those sleeves, plastic sleeves that you use in notebooks. I've used those too. Protectors, that's what they call them. Well, that's nice. So I did that so well. It's still a large opening there. So I put it so close to the edge that it didn't seal it. So we'll just put it back in there again and take it a little bit further up on that side and hold it, hold it, hold it. It doesn't take long. This shrink wrap is not that thick. It doesn't take that long, but as you see, I am trying to do the video, so I'm not really checking very well there, and it's sealed. You don't want to pull at it because it will come loose. Now these little stray pieces that are on here, I cut that off with the scissors when I'm done. Now, you want to place everything where it needs to go. One thing about this, when you start to use the actual shrink wrap, heat gun or blow dryer on this, it will make a nice pillow if air is trapped in there. So I try not to seal the entire edge. That way it allows some air to escape. Now this is a little longer than the length you have here of the sealer mill. So I'm going to fold one edge here and kind of squeeze out that air and fold this edge over here. All this excess up here doesn't matter. All that matters is if you get a good seal across here, because this other stuff is going to be cut off. So I'm just going to pinch these two together and hold it. You don't have to get it as close as possible. There's a lot of excess up there. You just need to get it on there and fold it over. The shrink wrap, that's why they call it that, it will shrink down and fit the object that you have. So you just want to get a good seal. Now, if you are doing this and one of the seals kind of open up a little bit, just make sure you don't put the heat in that area so much. And that way it will shrink the rest of the plastic around the object. And having a little small area, see how that came right off, excuse me. Having a little small area that is not quite sealed won't matter. Now I want to seal this little piece here because it could cause a problem later. And we don't worry about that. When I first started shrink wrapping stuff, I used to be really meticulous about the way it's shaped, if it was any extra stuff hanging over. So I'm going to cut off that extra without cutting the seal. So I'll cut a little off on this side, and I left a little piece on that seal, which won't matter because that's going to shrink down. All right, there. And I'm just checking the seals. I'm checking it for holes. You want to do that before you start shrink wrapping it. So now everything is sealed. You see how loose everything is in there? I want to make sure everything maintains its shape. And now I'm going to get the heat gun and shrink wrap it. There's a little art to it, so I'm going to try and explain it to you, and then I'll show you, because this thing is going to be a little noisy. When you shrink wrap something, the main thing is to keep the heat source moving completely, you know, around the entire thing. You cannot shrink wrap the entire thing at one time, but if you continue to keep it moving around the object, it will address every surface, which keeps you from putting the heat in one area too much and creating a hole that would defeat the purpose. So I'm going to keep moving all around, so that it shrinks the entire thing sort of uniformly. Now, you want to lay your object face down. You want to grab the extra shrink wrap plastic, and I'm going to apply heat around the perimeter, the outside perimeter, and then in this area to cause all this excess to shrink. Then I will address the unit as a whole. So let's do this. I'm using low heat on a heat gun because it gets super hot. On a blow dryer, you may have to use the high heat. So let's go. Shrinking somewhat. And I'm only doing this to set the object. I'm not doing this to shrink wrap it yet. It gets super hot. I'm gonna do the bottom side, keeping the gun moving, and then back here to this side. Now I can kind of let it go. It gets super hot. I kid you not. You see these wrinkles in it? The more you shrink wrap it, the more those wrinkles will smooth out. And so that's all I'm doing. I'm moving all around to get these wrinkles out without coming too close with the heat gun. So I'm holding it a good distance away. Let me see if I can get all of it into the camera so you can see how far I'm holding it away. Notice they're moving. I see a little hole right here. And that's right off the seam. So I'm going to avoid this area and address some more stuff because I still see a lot of wrinkles in this. The really thick shrink wrap, you don't have that many problems with it will withstand more heat. That's really nice right there. Ooh, that's hot, 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 hot. I'm telling you, the heat gun gets super hot, but it goes really, really, really fast. So there we have it. There's only a couple of little wrinkles, but I don't want to chance. Well, the bottom has quite a bit of wrinkles. I'm gonna try not to be a perfectionist, but if you're selling this, you want as many of the wrinkles out of it as possible. Now, I will tell you, when I first started shrink wrapping, I did not have any professional shrink wrap material. I used a toaster. So I had the seal a meal, I seal everything. I turn the toaster on the highest setting, push the toaster lever down and just hold this over it and move it over it and watch the bottom because that's where the heat is coming up out of the toaster and it would shrink wrap it down really nicely. And that works real good. It's in there and that looks like a professional product. And that's why you're trying to remove most of the little wave parts because you want it to look professional, especially if you're selling this. So if you're selling it, no one knows looking at this, they can't tell that it did not come from a manufacturer or a distribution center like this. So you're being the middleman, you're being the distribution center by shrink wrapping, packaging it all together. And now you can just put your own little label on it, put it on the back, preferably on the back. Some people put it on the front, but I don't like to hide the product. So just put a little small sticker on the back and you're good to go. Now you can use an address label. You can get all your stuff on there. You may want to say how many products are in there or something like that. Say something about the product. These they already have from the manufacturer the information on there, sort of like the directions and the ingredients. It's already on there, so you don't need to do any of that. I kind of like when these UPC symbols show because that gives the person a chance to take a picture of it and do an internet search as to the cost of the product. When they do that, they can see I'm giving them a bargain. So that's how you shrink wrap items for gift giving or for selling, retail selling, or however you want to sell it, flea market or swap meet or whatever, craft stores, craft place or something. It works really good if you have a hodgepodge of objects. Right now, these are all from the same brand, but if you have a hodgepodge of stuff that you're making, sort of like a writing gift set, you can use a journal, some ink pens, and they don't have to come from the same place. But if you had those items and you don't want someone to see what the manufacturer, who the manufacturer was, they're mismatched items. So you got a journal from one company and you have a set of ink pens from another company. You can put those all in there together, take the ink pens out of the packaging that they came in, put the ink pens with the journal and shrink wrap it together, and you have a nice little journal set. So just an idea, but that's how I tend to do my things if I'm going to gift give or do a retail sale. So I hope that helps you. Again, if you haven't done so already, show some channel love by hitting the like and the subscribe button. And if you have a comment, please leave it below in the comment section. Okay, thanks for joining me.